the very human, biological survival instinct.
2 years after they are elected, it may be a different world.
The system is awful as it is, and we cannot put
Okay.
more burden on the citizens. The change after that is going to be dramatic.
The vision from Victor Hugo of the United States of Europe.
Vote for better people. If there are no people to vote, then that's your proof that you need to be more active.
Hello, everyone. Episode 3 of the Shape of Europe podcast discussion between me and Antonios. And I would like to start, Antonios, if you allow, with actually quoting one of the comments on our first video, which I think is very relevant to what we're discussing. Rafael Pereira said, we need more of this. We need European Commission members to address the people more often, not on official channels, but methods like these. In the age of internet, the fact that communication with the people is so weak is unfortunate. Rafael even gives an example. Start doing Q&A with people. Let people know who you are. Hear us and talk to us more. I think this is an amazing example of how simple the expectation of the people is to actually have connection possibilities with politicians. It's really not, nobody's inventing the wheel here.
That's exactly the idea that we were discussing before we start the podcast, how to engage more or how to allow the people to engage more with us. So I think it's a great observation and suggestion from Rafael. So Rafael, you are welcome next time to do a Q&A, a small Q&A session online with us. And for the rest of the audience, if you would like to join us for questions and comments, you just have to comment below and then we will reach out to you. As you said, Christoph, the level of connection, the degree of connection that we can have now between elected officials or between people who want to be elected and their audience, their voters, is unprecedented. And we're not making extremely good use of that for the moment. If you think about the possibilities and the potential out there and how, not so, what's the word I'm looking for, not so benign actors out there are using information communication technology to disrupt the common sense discussion that we have on certain topics. We can do a much better job in using that technology for good.
There is also a lot to be learned, how to influence what politicians think, what politicians do, not only during the voting season, but also while they are in power, while they are doing their work. And also, I think citizens have a lot to learn, how much influence is in their hands, how much it is possible to actually make things work better.
No, I'm not sure about that unless the system actually enables them or gives them the opportunity to participate. There's not so many things that individual citizens can do, but of course, it's always better if you're active. And you have to be active, first of all, in your neighborhood. You have to be active then in your region, your city, your region, if you want to influence anything, any kind of decision. People are reluctant because they have connected politics with something dirty. It's a dirty business, but politics is so much more than just the national elections and the big decisions and the power politics that takes place. But there's also another side of politics, which is much more fundamental and profound. And it's so much closer to the everyday life of the citizens. And that's, your local politics. In the end, just like other people have hobbies and part-time engagements, like some people go skiing, other people go have a football team or a band, some people just like to do politics, to gather, to create communities where they solve some of the issues or they make their lives a little bit more better every time. So we don't have to demonize politics on any level. Otherwise, we are doomed to just allow bad people to take part in it. As you said,
but wait,
it's
you said that there are not so many ways to do it, where, I cannot agree with that, because the ways that are already there are not being used by citizens in a meaningful way. And as you said, it can be fun. It can be actually not that hard to engage. I'm just browsing the have your say part of the European Commission's website, where there are specific regulations, proposals, initiatives that are considered or debated by the European Commission, put out for public consultations. Have your say initiative. That's what it's for. And right now, if you just narrow down to public consultation initiatives that are open to submit your opinion, currently there are 738 open public consultations on a vast number of topics.
I'll go there
European
now.
Research Area Act, strategic
Wait,
vision.
Christoph.
What?
Give me some time. So I go there now on the website, and I upload a comment on the open consultation of the Commission. So what difference does that make?
Well, it makes a lot of difference. For one comment will not make a difference, but more comments from citizens than from business will actually make a difference. Because, those comments are public. And why are those comments not so much debated in the media? Well, because they're boring, they're not interesting. They're just businesses and initiatives, organizations representing some lobby interests, putting out their usual statements. But imagine more citizens engage and actually call out the Commission or other institutions for not delivering what was promised. I'm sure that would be also interesting for media to pick up and then go back to those politicians and say, hey, listen, I read the comments on that public consultations from citizens from your country, and they say they're not happy. What is your point? Why are you doing this? And then it will really make a difference. Don't you think?
No, I'm in total disagreement here. Why?
So what's the point of this better regulation? Maybe I'm not seeing something.
The open consultation. The open consultation, first of all, if you actually try to submit a comment, you have first to read the legislative proposal and the initiative. So if what we're proposing now is for the people to go out there and read 200 pages of legislative legal language and then make an informed decision or an informed comment based on that, I don't believe that the people have the time to do it. I don't have the time to read all those legislative proposals and participate in this direct way in the democratic process. That's why we have representatives that we select every 4 or 5 years for them to take the decisions for us. That's the representative democracy. Now, there are ways of enriching our representative democracy with direct democratic elements, and this is where the technology can come into. But I believe that this open consultation process is much more useful for those who are already experts, or if not experts, they have devoted some time at least to understand what is the topic, what is the issue, what is the challenge, what is the legislative proposal, what is the impact assessment, and so on. I don't expect from the people to have the time and the training to do something like this. And I also disagree with the open consultations and the fact that it is full of companies' comments and feedback. I mean, most of the time, it's the companies that are affected by this legislation, and they are persons too. First of all, they are legal persons. Second, they actually employ people. Thousands, millions of people are working for those companies. Every time it's a different company, different sector, and so on. But still, every time a company has a position on something, it doesn't reflect only the CEO or the board. It also reflects to the hundreds or thousands of people who work for the company. And if you ask them, they want the company to continue because they like their job and they want to keep it at least. So it's much more complicated than that.
So you think the system is good as it is, or something is not?
No, it's awful. The system is awful as it is. The system is awful as it is, and we cannot put more burden on the citizens, saying that, you can improve and influence the system just by doing this or that and this or that. the current tool, we have the tools, we have the potential, but we don't have any kind of systems or structure in place to include. There was a big experiment with the conference on the future of Europe where there were, I don't know, citizens' councils and citizens' events that were gathering people to give their opinion about the future of Europe. It was an experiment. Most people see it as a failure. But for me, as I'm always very optimistic, at least it was something we experimented with a direct democratic element into the thing that we're trying to build here in Europe. You know, asking citizens to do this kind of detailed work in order to influence the political decisions, I think it's too much of a burden in an overburdened civil society. Therefore, we have to keep
Well, if
the system
I may,
accountable, not the people.
if I may interrupt you here, because you earlier said that you elect people every 4 years to not have to engage with politics for some time because they have to do a job that they're elected for. And for me, this is one of the parts of the model that is not working. And saying what you said is,
Representative democracy.
in my perspective, not it's no, it's not this, it's just not the right way to look at it, because we are in a world that is getting so fast and so dynamic that even assuming that your politician is doing a right job, the one you elected, you can't expect them to understand your expectations for everything they have to decide on for such a long period of time, over 4 years, because it may be 2 years after they are elected, it may be a different world. So I think, and on the other hand, you're right. It takes a lot of work to understand how informed decisions can be made on your opinions on specific regulations, but we have AI now that can do that for us. So if I would be a citizen and there
Mhm.
would be a law that would potentially be deciding on something that is dear for me, let's say sports. I'm a sports activist, and there is some regulation affecting how sport organizations will function. And there is a 200-page document. I will, of course, not read it. I will ask AI to read it for me, give me some conclusions, and just share my perspective. For example, say, hey, I represent a community of people from, let's say, central Poland, and these are the issues that are important for us. Please take them into account. And then I would hope that the legislative, the regulatory machinery in Brussels that is paid from my taxes will deal with my concerns.
Yeah, how often can you do that, and for how many decisions can you do that? Again, you said the community of people that I represent from this rural part of the country is very interested in this. You need to have some sort of an aggregation of positions and opinions and requests. And you've also already put in the artificial intelligence element in your decision-making process. So you're not even reading the whole thing. You're just asking the AI to do the reading for you and possibly even give you some feedback that will affect your decision. I'm not entirely against using technology in this democratic process. Quite the contrary, it can give us a lot of inspiration how to solve the issue. But we have to be very careful how fast we implement those changes. These democratic structures that we have now have been the product of centuries of evolution, social evolution. Therefore, we have to be very careful not to implement changes very quickly and to lose touch with the fundamentals and the basics. That said, my point is, in order also to not to extend this argument, that we have the representatives that we deserve. I'm a big believer in this. It's not the aliens that are coming from outer space to put the ballot in the box.
No, there are some opinions.
What opinions? That we don't choose who to elect?
There are some opinions that we are run by aliens, actually. That some people
Those
believe we are
opinions.
ruled by aliens.
Yes, reptiles as well. The big conspiracies. No, if you don't want to go into that
I
particular
guess we will
domain,
never know the real truth behind it.
It's true, even though some conspiracies lately have been proven to be a reality. Anyway, don't go into this. I'm telling you, it's not. If previously I said we have to not to burden too much the citizens with additional asks and requests and tasks from them. Now, this I cannot ignore the fact that, we are electing those people. You are electing those people, and then um, um, maybe you don't like, then you have to choose someone else, and that's the way it goes. So it's in this respect, it's completely up to you. Vote for better people. Vote for better people. If there are no people to vote, then that's your proof that you need to be more active. If you don't like anyone, it means that you have to find someone, or at least if you don't have the time, you don't feel like you don't have the training or whatever, find someone and say, I like you. I think that you can do good for this community. I will support you. Run for the council, the city council, run for the regional council, run for president. I don't care. But, if you don't have anyone to vote for, find someone and support, even if they're not elected yet. So these are the things that you can actually do, or activate yourself and so on. It's very valid. That's all justified. That's part of the democracy that we have developed, as I said, during the past centuries. Does it need an update? Absolutely. Do we have the technology to do that? Absolutely. Are we willing to do it? Yes. In a systematic and structured way? Yes, we have. We can.
That's what I wanted to ask you to close up this topic. Is there any research that you are aware of that offers some vision of a potential path where this could go in terms of making it better? Are there any ideas so far that
Look,
someone
in
has
the
put out?
social sciences are not mathematics, they're not physics, they're not chemistry. Unfortunately, we do not have a social laboratory to test all these ideas and then apply them in real life. That's why I said we have to be very extra careful. There are small changes here and there that we can take lessons from. I mean, even in Europe, you have Switzerland, which is far more direct democracy than other places. We have Estonia, for example, that has introduced all these digital ways of interacting with politics, the digital vote, online vote, and it works fine. It works absolutely fine. We don't have to be afraid. Do we need security? What's guarantees, assurance that nothing will go wrong? Absolutely, yes. But this thing that we are afraid all the time of the technology and the things will, go out of hand and so on, and then stay with what you have. Okay, stay with what you have. If you are afraid of the future, you can stay in the past. That's the choice that you have.
Okay.
Not
Okay, I
you
think we're
personally,
done with this.
obviously.
I think we're done with this segment. Are you fine? Are you okay with this?
Yeah, just if I can go back to the comment which sparked this whole segment, it's something that we also discussed before today, before starting the recording, and it's that we need more questions. Actually, we need more questions. So the audience can comment with more questions. But I mean, if someone wants to join us for a short period of time, for a short segment, just leave a comment below and we'll get in touch.
Yeah, definitely. We're here for you. So, and we would very much appreciate having guests from outside of the Brussels bubble on the pod that could, well, maybe share some different perspectives with us that we could then challenge from the Brussels perspective. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm not
So
inviting
the
anyone to come
second,
here and
yeah,
give a speech. Christoph, I'm not inviting anyone to come here and give a 20-minute speech. But if they want to give some brief feedback or comment and ask a question and have a small discussion based on that question, they're very welcome.
definitely, yes. So the second thing I find interesting to take on today is the fact that the Americans are making fun of us Europeans.
We are making fun of
And
us Europeans.
I'm
We're not waiting for the Americans. We are also making fun of ourselves.
okay. So there is this podcast. It's called A16Z, which stands for Anderson Horowitz, a venture capital firm from the United States, one of the biggest and most known. And they have a podcast, of course, focused on the venture capital market in the US and globally. And in the recent episode, they discussed how America wins the AI race against China.
Like basically, I think everything we've talked about so far is basically the opposite of the European approach.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Europeans, I mean, they have a really different mindset for all of this stuff. When they talk about AI leadership, what they mean is that they're taking the lead in defining the regulations. And they're all, it's like, that's what they're proud of, is that, like, they think that's what their comparative advantage is that, they get together in Brussels and figure out what all the rules should be. And that's what they call leadership.
The EU just announced I shouldn't beat on them too much, but they just announced a big new growth fund, a big new public-private sector tech growth fund to grow EU companies to scale. And I was just like, well, it's actually it's almost like a game show or something. They do everything they can to strangle them in their crib. And then if they make it through like a decade of abuse of small companies, then they're going to give them money to grow.
Well, it's what Ronald
Yeah.
Reagan had a line about this, which is, if it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it.
Yeah.
If it stops moving, subsidize it.
Yeah.
The Europeans are definitely at the subsidize it stage.
I have to search very hard for a defense here. Look, the EU has lost every major innovation race in the past. We know that. We're not expecting the Americans to come and say this. It's not like we're not good at innovation. When we were innovating, the American continent did not even exist on the world map. So this is a continent of great scientists, great philosophers, great explorers, great innovators, and great businessmen as well. So it's not like we're complete total strangers to that side of life, and we know what is holding us back. There is a lot of market fragmentation. There is a lack of a capital market union. There's all sorts of other regulatory aspects that are holding innovation back. And even when we do have innovation in Europe, in order for this innovation to scale up, they have to go somewhere else and take their business basically somewhere else.
Because what I think needs to be said here is that we have the conditions, which you rightly pointed out. I think it's still relevant to say that we are the smartest continent on the planet. We have the brightest minds, the best education. We also have the funds. We just don't know, we're not allowed to use them. Just, look at the sizes and restrictions of the pension funds in Europe. We also have a market that would allow to scale, to test out innovations, but also to scale, but it's overregulated. It's not a single market yet, especially for small business, which is crucial for innovation.
We can do better, for sure, but we have to overcome all those difficulties. And essentially what you're saying, you're pointing to a political problem. Europe has a political problem. It doesn't have a problem of education or innovation, or not even availability of funds, as you rightly pointed out. The potential is there, the historical tradition is there, but we do have a political problem. It's a political problem, and we have to face it.
What is it? Can we define it?
Yes, there is no political actor at the moment in Europe that can drive the necessary reforms and make sure that they are implemented throughout the continent. We don't have the political force to do that. And that's a
Why?
historical...
If it's so obvious, because again, stuff we're discussing here, Antonio, is not rocket science. I mean, so why?
There's no great secret there. There's also no great conspiracy behind it. Also, it refers also to what we've discussed in the first and the second episode. For historical reasons, this continent, and for geographical reasons, this continent has been fragmented in many different small pieces, states, nations, and markets, okay, languages and cultures. And now we're expecting from this continent, because the circumstances have changed worldwide, to start acting as a single global actor. That's a big ask. Okay, we have to be also realistic. We need time for that. We need to allow for the democratic process to work, and we need also the external shocks. You know, I've gone live on Euronews and I said that Trump, for example, is the best thing that ever happened to Europe. The fact that there is someone who is
I remember, yeah.
so hostile towards the European idea, or the fact that the United States are pivoting towards Asia and other parts of the world, and they don't have so much interest in Europe, and then Europe needs to defend itself. These are all external shocks that can actually push us and force us to work better together. It will take time, but I believe, and I said that before again, it is an inevitability. There is, right now, every reasonable person on the continent knows that a single member state, be it big like France or smaller like, I don't know, Croatia, which is the youngest member as well, is not able by itself to address the challenges that we have, whatever that challenge is, from great power competition to migration. We cannot do it by ourselves. We need to work together. So this is a realization that is enabling and facilitating the emergence of a common European interest. But this cannot happen from one day to the next. And at the same time, as I said, there's no political force. So we also have to update the institutional structure as we move. This equals to fixing your bike while you're actually using it. That's how difficult it is. And I'm not using this as an excuse. Right, I have all sorts of criticism towards the way the European integration is going in the last years, but I also need to be pragmatic and realistic from what I'm asking. And the tragedies, and that's the real tragedy, that's the real political problem. The tragedy for the Europeans right now, the European people, is that the mainstream political establishment is proving ineffective. I don't want to say useless, but it's proving useless to implement the changes that we need in order to stand on our own 2 feet. They cannot do it. It's simple. We need a common European platform in order to be able to survive the next century, and this political class cannot deliver it. And then the tragedy is that the contenders, the challengers for power, are people who don't believe in the common European idea and project. So they don't believe that the solutions can come from Europe. They believe in national policies, which is completely detached from reality. And that is our tragedy. We cannot find any hope in the current political configuration. We cannot find any hope in the future political configuration. And if you want me to link this to the previous segment, that is exactly the reason why we need to activate ourselves. The other 2 poles, let's say, the current and the future challenges, are already activated for a long time. So we need to be more aware of that. And I mean, I'm not asking anyone to just go out there and create political parties. That's not what I'm saying. But at least if we have this framework in our minds, then we can understand better what is going on.
So wait. I mean, we have historically, because we agreed that we will also discuss the historic background of Europe. You have moments where Europe believed that working together makes sense. If you look at Renaissance, if you look at Enlightenment, I mean, federalist dreams in Europe were here for much longer than the European Union exists.
Yeah.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, they started around the 19th century already, right? So it's not a totally new concept that we are discussing here.
It didn't start in the 19th century, no. That's the most recent, of course, but there's historically a constant drive for unity in an otherwise fragmented continent. If we summarize what we said about the shape of Europe in the previous podcast, I told you that geography, the fact that geography is not favorable for the concentration of power, but it's enabling a fragmentation of cultures, languages, and nations, was not very helpful in uniting the continent. But there's always been a drive for unity in parallel to that, or underlying our history, or however you want to call it. And we've had, even medieval efforts to unite Europe, like the Holy Roman Empire, for example. Even before that, we had ancient
I'm not talking about
drives.
Yeah. But these are drives that were sort of uniting Europe by sword and force, which now we figured out how to do it without the use of weapons, and do it in a democratic way. What I was referring to is, for example, the vision from Victor Hugo of the United States of Europe. Just to give an example, that there has been this concept that we as Europeans share enough in common to work together more closely, has been there for much longer than the idea of the European Union exists.
For centuries, we have people realizing that we share something fundamental and profound with each other. You mentioned Victor Hugo, and it's true. No matter how much you don't want it to be true, no matter how much you want to reject this idea, if you walk in different European regions, cities, capitals, you will see that even in the architecture, even in the way that we organize our lives, there is something common in there. And we also share, despite the fact that we've been fighting each other for centuries, we also share common history. That's something that defines us, our common history. And the difference, every other difference is not insurmountable, for sure. Even when we have, thousands of different little festivals or little celebrations, but that happen at the same time in different parts of the continent with different language and different ways to do them, the fact that we have the same celebrations in big parts of Europe, that's also something that we share, no matter if we do it in different language or in different process, or no matter all those differences. So the idea is there. It precedes the European Union, and it will stay there after the European Union, no matter how we change it. Because it's a constant, as I told you the last time, it is a constant fight against geography. If we want to survive the 21st century, we have to overcome geography, and we have to overcome our differences and come together and create something that will stand the test of time and the test of the new world that we have in front of us, both in terms of technology, but also in terms of geopolitics and shifting alliances and shifting interests and great power competition and changing economic principles that organize the international economy and so on and so forth. The fact remains that we've changed so much over the past years, even the European Union itself. So let's start from here. Even the European Union itself has changed in the past 70 years, many times. We reinvented, as we said in the previous podcast, we reinvented it several times. And I believe that there's no other option for us than to reinvent ourselves and the Union another time, because the necessity is there. There's a geopolitical necessity for that. So this is a goal worth fighting for. Absolutely.
You remember our interview with Jan Komasa, who is just on tour promoting his new movie, and he has just given a couple of interviews to German newspapers where he reminds about the historical difficulties between Poland and Germany, but also he said a very interesting thing, that if you would combine the German, what do you say, Ordnung in English, the German Ordnung, order.
Can't help you there, buddy. I don't speak
If you
German.
would combine the German, if you would combine the power of German order with the Polish creativity, you would almost create an ideal nation. That's what he said. So, well, it's another example that you can look at the challenges Europe has, always from a different perspectives and see the challenges, the differences in Europe as our strengths. We just have to be more, constructive and optimistic in seeing that we have no other choice than actually building something together. I think this will be the theme of our podcast that will be coming back in almost every episode.
This also reminds me of the lighthearted discussion that we had in Greece in 2004 when the Greek national team won the Euro. We won the Euro with Greek players, but we had the German coach. And it was a similar discussion that, the Greeks put their souls and their effort, their physical effort and their athleticism on the field, but we had the German to organize the team and so on. This is, you can take it as an optimistic example.
Let me just mention that some of the best football players in Germany are Polish.
Yes.
Players.
So what I want to say is, as I said, this is a lighthearted discussion. What I want to say is that we can look at our differences as advantages instead of disadvantages and find ways of working together. People in their everyday jobs, they have to work with colleagues that they don't agree with in almost nothing, So it's kind of the same way. But if they don't cooperate with those colleagues, then the company is going to fail. So it's more or less the same thing. The teams as well, football teams. It's not necessary that everyone likes everyone in the team, whether it is football or basketball or any other team sport. So we have to approach this in the same way. Yes, we have the differences. Yes, we have our similarities. Both of them are a product of history and geography. But what we create in the future, it's up to us. We can overcome those difficulties. We can turn them into advantages. We can create structures that exploit our advantages and create something better than the whole is going to be better than the parts of it.
Should we wrap it up, or do you have anything else?
The only thing that I wanted to say is that this whole discussion and this whole introvert discussion, the realization that the world is changing and we have to change in order to be able to survive in this new world. It doesn't come all of a sudden. It's something that was developing and it was evolving even before we realized, that the United States, for example, just an example, the United States are no longer willing to defend the whole continent by themselves. Or before we realized that China, regardless of what they say, that they just want to trade with everybody, they are actually using trade as a weapon, as a coercive mechanism with everyone they are trading with. So even before those realizations, we had a European Union that was the whole mythology. We've had the whole mythology that was supporting the ideas that were supporting the European Union were failing long before that. Okay? We have what was the reason for the creation of the European Union? It was all about maintaining peace on the continent. It was about rebuilding the continent and creating prosperity and growth. That's economic prosperity and growth. And the third one was to create the conditions to support democracy. These are the foundational myths of the European Union. This is what the European Union is supposed to be doing. And we've seen consistently for the past decade, maybe 2 decades, that we are not achieving those goals. To a lesser or a greater extent, we are not achieving those goals. When we're talking about peace, there is war on the continent right now as we speak. So we were not able to maintain peace. When we talk about growth and prosperity, our growth and prosperity compared to the other regions, but even compared to ourselves in the previous years, is very, very low. So we are not creating new wealth. We are not growing as an economy and as a society. We have to fix that. When we're talking about maintaining democracy, we have political forces violating democratic principles even within our continent, from both sides, left and right. Okay, so all these foundational goals or myths about the EU, and I'm not using myth with a negative term. Myth is a good thing, is what's supporting a community. We cannot deliver them for the people. So when the people are doubting the European project, it's not because they're stupid. It's not because they're crazy. It's not because they are fools or they are getting fooled by political forces here and there. It's the political forces from left and right that exploit the fact that we're not delivering for the people. And then what is the voter going to do? If what we have now is not delivering, is not effective, they will look for other options, right? So this was happening. We don't need we don't need the Americans to tell us that this is not working, right? We don't need the Chinese. We don't need anybody. We don't need the Russians to remind us that we need to defend ourselves. Obviously, we were sleeping. We were sleepwalkers. We were sleepwalking, to be correct, thinking that the Americans will defend us or that there is no reason to defend the continent. That the growth is going to be like this. We can regulate everything and the growth will come. Why? We don't know. And of course, democracy is a given. We don't have to protect it from all sides, internal and external threats and enemies. It's there. No. But the fact remains that this thing, as it is now, has not been working for some time and will definitely not work for the future and the world that is in front of us. So we have to change it.
To wrap it up, I would just add that there are very clear signs in the history, looking back at European history, that show that those who have a good vision of a united Europe, of a united community, sometimes have to understand that their vision needs time. I'm thinking here, for example, about Adenauer, who was from the beginning hoping to build a new Germany, to rebuild Germany, part of a European community, and also a united Germany, but he knew that the unification of East and West Germany was not possible during his term. And realizing that, he was just trying to build good ground for this happening in the future. So maybe some solutions are not ready yet, but that doesn't mean, and I'm referring mostly to those who are feeling discouraged by what's happening right now, this doesn't mean that the idea of a strong and unified Europe, of strong and proud nations working together, is not something worth fighting for. That's my final thought for today.
Yeah, and just to complement your thought, there is no way that the survival instinct in every European is not going to kick in very soon. The thing that we've been noticing for us who were observing for a long time is upon us. It's that kind of urgency, is that kind of an existential problem that we have right now. We just cannot go on the way we are. So the survival instinct, this is my hope, to end on a positive note. It's not a matter of leaders. It's not a matter of, making reforms or just changing a small regulation here and a small regulation there. My biggest hope lies in the very human, biological survival instinct that will inevitably kick in, and the change after that is going to be dramatic and radical. I hope for the best.
That's a great topic for our next episode, actually. Let's discuss that next week. Antonios, thank you very much for today. Thanks everyone who listened to us. And as we mentioned in the first segment of the podcast, join us. Comment, discuss. If you want to take part in our discussion and share your thoughts, send us a message and we'll be happy to take on your perspective on the shape of Europe. So thank you, everyone,
don't have to think
and we'll see you next week.
You don't have to think it, you don't have to think too much. You don't have to overthink. If you're interested in joining us, ask us a question, make a comment, just write interested in the comment section and hit enter. And then we'll find a way to communicate and get you on board.
Definitely. All right. Take care, everyone.